The Guardians got big offensive weekends from two hitters, neither of them named Steven Kwan or Jose Ramirez, as they continue to trim the gap between them and a playoff spot.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into a Monday morning edition of Locked On Guardians, or whatever time it is, whatever day it is you're listening to the show. But we are Locked On Guardians. We are here every day covering your Cleveland Guardians every day as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. For the next half hour, it is our favorite half hour. So we're talking about the Guardians, the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. We do it every day. My name is Justin Lada, and I have been co-hosting this podcast with my friend and co-host Jeff Ellis since 2022. I've also been covering the Guardians minor league farm system since 2007. That's 18 years. Holy crap. And I've been a whole bunch of places, but most importantly here with you every day, Jeff.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I am Jeff Ellis, one of your co-hosts here. I want to take a moment and say, thank you for downloading the podcast and listening today and making us your first listen, I should say, today and every day, wherever it is that you get podcasts. As you mentioned, I am Jeff Ellis. Been here since the beginning of Locked On in baseball. Before that, I was national writer at Scout and 24/7, focused on prospects and the draft. I want to give a shout out to all of our everydayers. Thank you to everyone who is joining us. And we had so many questions from the last mailbag. We're just going to tuck some of those away for later. A flooded basement couldn't keep me from recording. Here I am. So yeah, let's talk about. I know it's always hard when they lose the last game of the series, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, it would have been nice to sweep the road trip for sure, but 2 out of 3 is good. They're still in a good spot. We'll talk about all that. We will talk about the Cleveland Guardians on today's episode. Can close the gap between them and a playoff spot. We'll talk about the struggles of Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan and what all that means. We have to start off today's show, Jeff, by talking about the new Bash brothers. Kyle Manzardo and CJ Kayfus. Bet you weren't expecting that. Before we dive into all that, this episode of Locked On Guardians is, of course, brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. It's pretty much here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Futures bets on CJ Kayfus and Kyle Manzardo combining for 40 home runs next year. Book it. I am, as Matt Underwood would say, book it. I am ready for 40 home runs between Kyle Manzardo and CJ Kayfus in 2026. What a fun weekend that was for those two, by the way. I know Manzardo had 2 home runs on Sunday and they lost, but he essentially kept them in the game by himself. He's at 20 home runs. He's having an incredible second half. And, of course, CJ Kayfus is having a great first week in the majors. He had a couple of doubles this weekend. He had his first home run that came off a lefty, by the way. A lefty who came into CJ Kayfus' no-no spot, and he crushed him right there. You don't throw a fastball in on CJ Kayfus in the kitchen there because he will take you out. And, it was a fun weekend to watch both of them hit. That was essentially the Guardians' offense all weekend was Kayfus, Manzardo, a little bit of Gavilaris a couple times.
Santana in game 1 was pretty big as well, as was and Fry had the big hit, in one situation today. There was a few players, but yeah, those two definitely stood out over the course of. Manzardo was a player of the game every single game for me in this series. He stepped up and was getting on base and doing a lot of things, even when he wasn't hitting bombs. Kayfus was a player of the game in 3 straight games until today's game, where he was not. Like, those two have definitely been on fire, and that's what you need, because Steven Kwan has been Steven Kwan's actively hurting the team, unfortunately, offensively. He's been a below average bat since May. Like, not just 90, like more than 10% below league average. Like, he is scuffling badly. I don't know if it's the wrist. I don't know if it's a hamstring. I don't know if it's all those things. And then, Jose was just okay in June, and he was great in July. And I mean, he killed him on Sunday. He came up with runners and scoring runners on base so many times. And he was kind of back to being the pop-up king that occasionally happens. He does get caught in between. He'll be fine. Definitely a little more concerned with Kwan, just because for whatever reason, he gets beat up every year, and June and July are not the strong months for him. Hopefully he'll do like he did last year, which was struggle.
September.
And yeah, get that big rebound, but he definitely has some shades of Jason Kipnis in his performance profile the last 2 years. And, it's a concern because they need him so much. And right now he's struggling. It's one of those situations where, they they won 2 out of 3 games from the White Sox. You're always hoping to sweep a team like the White Sox. I always say 2 out of 3 is good enough. Offensively, though, the thing is they're doing all of this with, this whole big second half offensive push has basically been sans Kwan. Like, he's there, but he's not Kwan that we know. So they've done this without him, which is really impressive, because there's definitely a point this year where you and I were like, Kwan is the driving force of this team. If he's not playing well, they're not going to win. And they've kind of, Manzardo is gotten better as the year has gone on. Kayfus so far has been a good addition. Rocchio has really responded well from his send down. They've slowly but surely kind of built around this group. I'm not saying it's a good offense, but I'm saying they're kind of moving to mediocrity where they can overcome someone like Kwan being, a below average bat, and the offense can somehow stay afloat. And I mean, they put up a lot of runs this weekend. One can argue it was more the pitching was the issue today.
The pitching was the issue on Sunday. Yeah, we'll talk about Slade Ciccone a little bit. But Kyle Manzardo has been on a stretch for a while now, and I know there's still this call to play him every day and have him face lefties. Like, his OPS against lefties is still not in a great place. Like, it's 771. It's playable, but it's really a lot of power, and it's all kind of brought on by what he did the first weekend of the season when he hit 3 home runs off lefties against the Royals. He has 4 home runs against lefties all season, and 3 of those were in the month of April. So I still think the right thing for Kyle Manzardo's platoon, especially when Carlos Santana's still here and he's still better against lefties, and that's essentially all you need him for at this point, plus defense, because we saw Manzardo made a weird play on Sunday that was not a great play. Santana's a much better defender. That can be valuable as things go on. But Kyle Manzardo really, though, has been on a heater since June. Like, let's go back to June. 753 OPS in June. That's not great, but it's playable. It's in the right direction. Yeah, he didn't get on base, but he slugged. July, oh my goodness, July. Kyle Manzardo became more than I think we ever bargained for. 936 OPS, 295, 362, 574, and so far in August, an OPS over 1,000. This looks more like the hitter I think we thought we were acquiring. Maybe even better than that. Like, they jumped Aaron Savali in game 1 of the series, came out and scored 3 runs before the guy could even sit down. Some of that was due to his own walks, but this is, I said they won that trade. Like, Savali is on a bad team. He's trying to pitch himself into a free agent contract that he's probably not going to get a good one out of.
He pitched well for them until that game, though.
Yeah, but I'm taking Manzardo. Like, that trade ended up being
great.
Yeah,
no, I agree. I'm just saying Savali is actually on, like, what makes their jumping him even more impressive is he had been pitching well.
And I think it's just more fun, too. So, like, they found a way to make Manzardo and Kayfus work on the roster, too. Like, these guys have both been hitting well. Manzardo since July. Kayfus had a great first week. He's drawn some walks. There's been some whiffs. He's hitting for power. Right field, he hasn't really made any blunders yet. Like, he's been actually pretty good out there. I'm really glad they found a way to make this work finally in the lineup, because these two have been a force together over the last week. And this, like you said, they're building something here. So when you do get guys like Kwan and Ramirez back on track, which they will, and you add some other pieces to this lineup that could be streaky, like Angel Martinez, a Gabriel Arias, Daniel Sheeman, those guys have their moments. Or David Fry, if David Fry can figure things out, you've got the makings of a pretty, like you said, middle of the pack lineup. Is it going to be, gangbusters scoring? Is it going to be the 90s Indians? No, it's not. But you might have, if you look at Jose, Kwan, and Manzardo and Kayfus, and whether it's, this is how they were good early in the year and how they were good last year, is when Sheeman was hot, great. When Fry was hot, somebody else cooled off. They always had someone stepping up. And if Kayfus Kayfus is eventually going to go through struggle, let's be honest here. He is. But what we're seeing right now is a really good piece mixed together. And I'm really excited about that. We'll talk more about Kwan. We'll talk more about Jose. We'll talk more about this lineup. We'll talk about the pitching a little bit from Sunday. Overall, an odd pitching weekend, actually, if you think about it. We'll get into all that on the rest of today's show. So stick around.
So, well, I might love PBS. Got this hat at the Brewers game today. I don't love this hat as much as I love my game day Q one. No knock on the PBS hat. This one, it just feels better already. Like, it is just a nice, cool, and it feels like cooling to me. And I am someone who runs hot, so that is so important to me. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Day Hue, and so is this hat I'm wearing. For Guardians fans like me, this one hits the mark. Game Day Hue makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, or anywhere in between. And that's what I love. I can wear this anywhere. It absolutely will work anywhere. Gonna want to point out, not only is it like nice and cool inside, it's got all the little dots, which make it even nice. Again, for someone like me who runs hot, it is a hat that keeps me cool. And don't forget that they also make really cool. It's not just hats. Check out the split shade gloves made for the golf course. It's the perfect gift for the fan that has everything. Right now, you can get 15% off with the code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. That code even stacks on bundles, so now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com. Code MLB15.
Back here on Locked On Guardians, thank you for making us your first listen today and every day. Whatever it is you get podcasts. Shout out to all the everydayers. Shout out to anybody else who's tuning in. Shout out to the insiders. Make sure everybody is downloading on audio so you never miss an episode. Make sure you're downloading on video, hitting the bell on YouTube so you always get reaction videos, breaking news videos, episodes, the MLB Squad Show, all that stuff that's coming directly into your feed. So they're making this roster work between Manzardo and Kayfus. Like, they're finding a way to make it work, which begs the question, why didn't they do this sooner, right? Like, I think we talked all year about how, like, it wasn't a perfect fit, like, for DeLauder, because David Fry is essentially a DH. He can't play anywhere else. So you can't have DeLauder and David Fry in the same roster because you need to sit one of those guys pretty much every day. It's very unlikely those two can be in the same lineup. Kayfus, there was no perfect fit for him either, and they talked about how they didn't want to make him, an outfielder to start his career, and they got past the deadline, hung on to Santana, which I'm still looking at more as like the Cole Calhoun role from 2023. Like, Cole Calhoun played a lot more in 2023 than I think we all would have liked. But I kind of feel like Santana's...
I think it's just Santana's here because there was no value. I think
there was no value, but I think he shifted down into that Calhoun role because he's not really playing every day. Like, you're seeing him play against lefties. You're seeing them get Kayfus and Manzardo into the lineup. They kept him out of the lineup on Sunday, and I know it didn't work, but that's not the point. But I think it's working out very well. Which again begs the question: why didn't they try Kayfus and Manzardo in the same lineup before?
Well,
because they just didn't want to have Kayfus in the outfield. No. But clearly, it works. It works.
I don't think that's quite the reason. I think the reason's pretty straightforward, honestly. Nolan Jones was playing well, and they were more focused on DeLauder, who was closer. When DeLauder got hurt, it moved up Kayfus's clock a little, and Jones really fell off. So then you hit this point where it became worth the trade-off and the risk. So it was literally like Nolan Jones at the time was one of their 4 best hitters before up into the All-Star break at the end of June. And I know, like, it's this and that, but we always talk about it's about small incremental improvements. And if a guy is league average, they're not going to replace him because that's just the way this team has to operate. So he was roughly league average, and then he really fell off. So once he fell off and once Chase DeLauder got hurt, then they were like, okay, well, we don't have an outfielder we're going to promote anyway, so we can try the Kayfus experiment. So it literally came down to, I think, a combination of Jones's imploding, Angel Martinez also kind of imploding, and them deciding to not play him as regularly. So it was kind of those two guys like, okay, we can make the at-bats occur, and the other player we're considering for that role is going to miss significant time. So I think it's pretty straightforward in that regard.
I don't think that's necessarily wrong based on the timing, but let's also remember that Kayfus was healthy and hitting while DeLauder was out the first time with the hernia surgery. So it's not like Kayfus was around this whole, or DeLauder was around this whole time and hitting, and they just decided once he got hurt to make the switch or the change in decision. Like, Kayfus was hitting and doing pretty well before DeLauder came back from the hernia surgery. So this was an option before.
Yeah, but they wanted him to get reps, I think, at that level. It's trying, and he hadn't played outfield until this year, really. So they're also getting him more reps in the outfield.
Yeah,
too.
You're
so
not
that's
wrong.
The other part.
I don't know. I think we still could have seen this like a little earlier than we did. I wait as long as they wait. I think we.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could have probably done it at the beginning of July. Like, I'm not going to sit there and say anything. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, no, they did it. You know, it looks like they pulled all the right levers with the way it worked, but like, yeah, I think it was kind of like one of those things where this is a very deliberate front office. Everything is very deliberately done. There's a plan. It is interesting to call him up when he was scuffling a little in AAA. Maybe that was also the thought process of like, they've called up a lot of guys when they're hot. Like, maybe call up a guy when he is scuffling. So when he comes up, maybe it feels like there's less pressure on him in that case. Well, like maybe there's some mental thing I don't know about, or maybe there's something in the data that you and I don't have that this team has so much data on. Who knows? But one thing I can say is it's definitely working out so far. I'm very curious because when we first came up, it was the Twins, right? Like they threw everything away and didn't show him any fastballs. And I thought that would be the book. And then the last two series, it's like the teams didn't have the book on him. And like you mentioned with the fastball. So I'll be curious to see what he can do when he adjusts. I've always said basically, hopefully he has a great year. Guys need 2 good years to really say that they are here. We've seen that with Nolan Jones and other players. Like you can have 1 good year until the book is fully out on you. I believe in him though. I think we're seeing a lot of positives. There's going to be some bumps, but I think we're seeing why you and I both had him as one of the best hitters in the org, and why, he was a guy neither of us were all that impressed when they drafted him, but like you and I both came around to him due to what he did in the minor leagues.
Yeah, he was able to maximize, pull side power. He was able to control a good at bat, even if there was some chase there. He still did a good job of hitting everything in the zone when it came to him. So, he's not going to be John Ken's Noel. Obviously, that's the nice thing. Like he doesn't have Noel's raw power, but he's also not going to chase like Noel either.
Yeah,
so
no one does.
No one does. He's got a little bit better when it comes to that. There's definitely going to be some whips, but I definitely have been impressed by the fact that he's been able to foul off some tough pitches, and he's drawn some walks, which is good. His at bats look really professional. I definitely expect to see, like you said, more high heat. I expect to see more breaking stuff down because that's where he's shown he's vulnerable, which we knew about. But he knows where his weakness is, so he can work on them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still been very fun. And like you said before, like this has been a good stretch for them. They're 8-2 in their last 10 now after Sunday's loss, but they really haven't had Kwan or Jose do anything. Like you said before too. We were talking like April and May when Kwan had a good game, they won. Like his OPS was like 800 or 900 and wins, and it was like below 700 when they lost. And now Kwan hasn't been doing anything for them since the month of May. And I kind of wonder, like, is the wrist bothering him again because he got a cortisone shot after the All-Star break, and he did really well against the Athletics, or not the Athletics. Who was the series they played after the Athletics? Because he didn't play, but he played really well.
Was it the Twins right after them?
I can't remember, but he played really well after the Athletics series was over. He didn't play. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, that shot, if he got a cortisone shot, that only works for so long. So, like, is the wrist still bothering him? Because I see teams throwing high fastballs to get on him again, and he's popping them up. He's going the other way.
He wasn't good in June, though, before the wrist injury started to act out.
Well, I think that's when it started popping up for him. That's when it started popping up.
His WRC plus by month, April 136, May 125, June 90, July 96, August 24. Like, he doesn't have a walk so far in the month of August. He's got a 216 batting average, a 216 on base, and a 243 slug. It's 459 OPS. If you remember last year in the second half until September, he was struggling to hit 200. He just wears down. Like, that's one of the dangers with a guy his size. Like, sometimes they do wear down, especially when you play all out.
Year. Yeah.
But it's a new injury, and it's always kind of that thing where it's hopefully he'll rebound because they don't have a lot of, listen, it's his spot no matter what. But yeah, his struggles have been interesting. I wonder if they'd ever change the lineup because of struggles. I know they won't, but I would love to almost see it done.
Who would you lead off if you move Kwan to the leadoff spot? Who are you putting up there?
I don't know. I'd have to really sit down and think about it day to day and see who you put in that spot.
I can't think of anybody that I would put up there. Like, you could put Angel chases a ton. Like, they've used Sheem in there.
Last maybe year, Rocchio weirdly at this point. Is it maybe Rocchio is your best option? Weirdly enough, like,
I don't know. I might just lead off Jose, honestly. Like, I talked that before. I would lead off Jose, but they're not going to change. There's no way it's going to change. They're going to wait until Kwan figures it out. And that's the thing too, is I don't think there's any, like, even if he was hurting and he had to go on the IL, I don't think he would, because there's nobody to replace him. Like, if they had to, they did it last year, late in the year when he had the back issue and he came back in September and he was much better, thank God, then in the playoffs. But there's nobody to call up in that place. There's nobody to replace him. So that's a problem. And Jose will get it back together. Like, Jose's caught in between right now.
Yeah.
He's having one of the worst months I've seen him have in a while, but it's only halfway. It's not even halfway through the month yet. So I think he'll be just fine. But it is impressive that they've been able to go on this run, and it hasn't been just, Kwan and Ramirez and everybody else is kind of chipping in. No, it's everybody else is doing the hard work, and Kwan's doing nothing. Jose's having some decent games. That's good to see, because these things always work in cycles too. So when those two heat back up inevitably, some other guys will probably go into a skid, and that's just how this works. But they've cut the gap down quite a bit without those two. So I at least am going to take that as a positive going forward in the rest of the year with the schedule they have. And they have to face the Tigers 6 more times, who also lost over the weekend. And they also have some breathing room in front of the Tigers, or I'm sorry, in front of the Rangers. And they are breathing down the necks of the Yankees. We'll talk about the Guardians trying to run down a playoff spot on the rest of today's Locked On Guardians. I know we're talking playoffs for baseball. That's coming up. But August 26th this month is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. I don't know who puts a lot of stock into preseason, but if that's your kind of thing, for 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, don't pick the Browns, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So go out and find your MVP. Is it Josh Allen? Is it Joe Burrow? Do I want to pick CJ Stroud, who I love and can favor there? Do I want to bet with that money? I don't know. If you're looking for futures too, by the way, the Guardians 1,200 plus 1,200 to win the AL Central. They were third up until this month. The Twins obviously finally taking a back seat because that's what they deserve. But the Guardians are moving up. So I think the Guardians can run down the Tigers. That's a futures bet you can make right now. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your future bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. I love, Jeff, that we are scoreboard watching in August. I think we've mentioned this on the show before, but if I had told you in July we'd have a reason to scoreboard watch in August, I don't know. Would you have believed that? Because I don't feel like I would have, especially after the 10-game losing streak. Like, they broke the 10-game losing streak in Houston before the All-Star break, and that was great. They swept Houston, which is a place they haven't really played well historically, no matter who the manager is, who's on the team for whatever reason. But they swept that series, and they played well into the break, and then they were pretty good out of the break, and then they got some more bad news, and then they decided to trade Shane Bieber, which I also want to talk about that in a second, too, the sale versus buy thing. But I don't know that I would have believed that this team we were going to be scoreboard watching in August, but we are, and it's a lot of fun. Like, I'm watching the games, and I'm checking the Tigers score. They were winning on Friday, and then they were losing on Saturday, and the Angels had knocked out Tarek Skubal, but they still lost. They lost on Sunday, but I'm checking the Rangers game. I'm watching those games, and I'm enjoying the Yankees' misery. Let's all be honest. If you're a Guardians fan, we love reveling in the Yankees' misery with their bullpen. Like, they went out and added all these high-priced, name pieces at the deadline, and they can't get their bullpen situation figured out. Again, I know people want to sit there and talk about the offseason and the ownership, all that kind of stuff, but it's August 10th, August 11th, and we're scoreboard watching, and the Guardians are a half game out of a playoff race because the Yankees lost on Sunday. And now, Jeff, they have some breathing room over the Rangers. And by the way, the Astros and Red Sox play each other this week, so those two have a chance to beat up on each other. And the Guardians play the Tigers 6 more times. And the Tigers aren't doing all that well either. I know they won 2 or 3, but it's the Angels. So there's a lot of good things happening here.
Yeah, especially if you had said, like, hey, they're going to be in this situation, and Steven Kwan would be, the second worst hitter on the team over the last 2 weeks outside of Angel Martinez. Those are your 2 lowest. Like, they're both below Austin Hedges, to give you an idea of the struggles. So to have those there and to keep performing, it's really impressive, and it's really it's been fun. Like, it's been a fun team. The offense is coming from everywhere. I was looking at the last 5 days and last 15 days, the last 15 and last 30, I should say. Manzardo, Schneemann, Fry, and Kayfus are the constant part in both those, like the top 5 hitters on the team. Those are 4 of the top 5 by OPS the last 2 weeks and the last 30 days. Jose and Bo move out. Like, Jose for the last 30, Bo for the last 5. But that's exactly the point. It's those other guys. It's the players that, we're talking about. Maybe that's the left fielder if Kwan hasn't gone to disable this. Maybe it's Schneemann. You can find a way to get him more playing time. But it's a situation now where it is nice where, over the last 5 days, Brian Rocchio's got a 776, Gaviari a 727. Like, they're getting contributions from it's up and down. It's not consistent. I'm not going to say like they've got it all figured out, but like they're getting contributions.
There's always somebody
from every spot in the lineup during the course of a week. Everyone is contributing to some degree in multiple games. It's not when it went bad in June, it was like, okay, that's a black hole. You're getting nothing. That's a black hole. You're getting nothing. And then the starting pitching was starting to get a bit shaky too, because, Tanner's had his ups and downs. The Ortiz situation unfolded. Like there was and Cantillo has struggled. It was a great start on Sunday. Tanner, he got hosed. Let's be very honest. Like he got a bad strike two, or should have been the second out in Friday's game. And then, it wasn't the best for Slade, but he has been good up until that point. Like it's a complete effort right now. I don't want to say a complete team because that makes it sound like they don't have holes. They do have holes. But I think what makes this so encouraging is we talked about it.
They're balanced.
They're very balanced, and there was a degree of bad luck for big parts of this year. Like, I'm not saying they were a good team, but they're also one of the most unlucky teams in baseball. And we're seeing kind of that, they always get mad when I say positive regression to mean we're seeing progress, I guess, just straight progress. We're seeing that the things balance out. And, it's just nice that guys are selling. And heck, I've been rough on Fry, but Fry's been great. Like I swung and missed there. Like he's been really strong over the last month. Like he's showing why he should be up and be in this role. And I got that one wrong. And that's the thing. Like when you can't run hot like we do on a show where we got to talk about the points and talk about what they can do. I think maybe the superpower of the Cleveland Guardians is stability.
Oh, I think that's an obvious. I mean, some people, get frustrated with that.
A lot.
I had to make. Well, I mean, they get frustrated in the fact that like, oh, they never won a World Series, and I get that. But I mean, as we've always talked about the show, how you and I are, and this is again not a reflection. Not everybody has to behave this way as a fan, or how they watch baseball in general, or how they follow sports. But I know for you and I, it's like we don't subscribe to championship or bust. Is it great to win a championship? Sure. I mean, I guess I wouldn't know because the Guardians have never won one. The Cavs did, and that was fun. So I'd love to see that feeling for Cleveland again. But like I it's a long drought, and you'd love to end it. But I just can't bring myself to act like 1 month ruins or makes the entire season for me. I had to make this analogy to my therapist recently. It's like, I could see the value and enjoying the 6 months, and then not necessarily, freaking out whether or not you reach the end goal. So I get people don't really love the stability because it's like, what has the stability gotten us? Well, hasn't won a championship, no, but it resulted in a lot of fun baseball. It's been like Sully's summer score.
Yeah.
They made the playoffs in 13. They made the playoffs in 16, 17, 18. Even if we don't count 2020, 2022, 2024, that's 7 out of the last 12 years. Okay, so that's 7 out of the last 11 if we discount 2020. Yeah. So I get that it hasn't reached the end goal, and by no means am I excusing like the fact they haven't spent more money or done better in trades or drafted better or
they've done pretty well in trades. I think you got to give them credit there.
All right, but maybe been more aggressive to try to take advantage of windows. Like I'm not excusing that at all, but when you look at, like you said, the stability on the field, after everything they've been through this year, it's not a perfect team, but somehow they're finding a way to be in games despite all they've been through, and there's a legitimate chance to make the playoffs here. Like I surely believe this team can get into the wild card spot. After that, I don't really know, but I do think there's a chance they're going to be able to run that gap down. I don't think the division necessarily. I think that's going to be very hard, but I don't see why this team can't win a wild card spot. I mean, again, we haven't like this whole run's happened. Sans Kwan, not really Ramirez. Tanner hasn't been the best version of himself. If you get the rest of August and September with those guys the best versions of themselves, who knows what can happen?
Yeah, and it's also one of those things I think when you're looking at this team, like we all have the knee jerk, right? Like, and that's what you always have to fight with baseball is to not have the knee jerk. It's like I always bring up the story. It's like if mob rule was a thing in baseball, Carlos Carrasco would have never had his career in Cleveland. Like there has to be time and patience, and yeah, sometimes it works out, sometimes
especially
it doesn't. Sometimes we don't give enough patience. Like I talked about, like right now, this team could really use Ernie Clement and Alex Call. And some of these aren't even guys they trade away. These are guys they just straight cut who have turned into good major leaguers who just didn't have the opportunity here. Heck, Ramon Laureano would probably help right now. Speaking of guys they cut.
I mean, they gave him a lot of runs.
I know.
Just working, but,
it was just weird. Like he's a guy who, it was a terrible BABIP. Like we talk about bad luck. It was the career worst BABIP there. But no matter what happens, you kind of have to have that patience in this game. And that's the same thing. Like this team isn't going to make a bad trade. Like they're going to wait and really
someone's going to comment Junior Caminero. I'm just saying
again, here's the thing. And I'll say this again. Like I if you want it, it's a bad argument because like we see literally 100 of those type of deals and 99 of them turn into nothing. If you want to get mad, it's Yandy Diaz. If you want to get mad, that's the deal where they traded a good player at the upper minors. Those low value guys, like we can bring up like the Abner Abreu's and a million other guys like that. That's the type of trade teams make that when they're in the, I mean, and Abreu was multiple years in the system at that point. So that's probably not even.
Who did they get for Yandy? Was that Hunt? Was that
was Jake Bauers and Cash, and then the Cash went to Jake Bauers and Cash
for sure.
But like you can even bring up Yainer Diaz to a degree. Like I mean, you and I thought he could hit, but we didn't think he could catch. So there's things like that. But like the Junior Caminero thing is just tired to me because literally, if you follow in depth, which I know most people don't follow like you and I do, but it's like there are hundreds of those lotto ticket deals a year, and even lesser degrees. Like I remember people losing their mind over Ruben Cartagenas because he had some really exciting moments when he was a guy. So
you know who did not like trading Ruben Cardenas? Me. I was a big Ruben. I didn't like trading Clint Frazier either. So clearly I've been wrong on these things before.
I didn't like the Connor Capel deal for Mercado, and I guess that ended up being a wash. Yeah. Like they both had their moments, but it's like, that's the thing. It's like they don't.
Capel's still in the majors, Mercado's in the minors. Just saying.
Yeah, so it's just a thing. Like the one thing you have to do with patience with baseball is be a little patient. I'm not going to sit here and get us copyright restricted by singing the Guns N' Roses or humming, that bit. But like this is definitely the sport of patience.
It is. All right, the Guardians have an off day on Monday, well deserved. I was a little bit worried that the Thursday off day was going to cool them off, but it didn't. They played well Friday and Saturday. They lost Sunday. It happens. But they'll be back on Tuesday against the Marlins. This will be an interesting series. But Tuesday. The Guardians, lots of promotions. Can one of those promotions could they be September reinforcements? We'll talk about who could be moving up, who is moving up, who could also be moving up. So it's going to be a full minor league show on Tuesday. So stick around for all of the minor league promotion news and who could be up in September from that list.
Thank you for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download daily, leave an iTunes review if you can. Thank you for all you do, each and every one of you. And go Guardians, go.